Rogue Show, South Carolina, determinism versus free will. Rogue Show, how are you?
I'm having the determination to have this call. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good, very good. What is it you want to talk about specifically regarding determinism versus free will? Because it's kind of a well-worn subject around these parts. So, what's the specifics of what you want to talk about?
Of course, since I'm an atheist, and like some guy who likes talking to people. I would like to know what you think about the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got there's a couple of people in the ACA who have really solid opinions on kind of determinism who come from that perspective. People like Secular Rarity and J. Mike is another one. I'm not so sure. This is one of those questions that I think about a lot, and I'm not entirely sure where I stand on it. I would call myself a soft determinist. I think determinism, I don't think there's such a thing as a kind of free will in that you can do anything that you want. I think that's demonstrated very, very easily just through kind of what we're able to do in life. I think that we have this thing where we are bound by what has gone before. So the reason I call myself a soft determinist is because I think there is also always the probability that something can go more ways than one. So, often when we're talking about this, people will say, determinism means if you rewound time back to the very beginning of time and started it again, we would make our decisions in exactly the same way. Everything would play out as it should. But on the quantum level, and I'm not going to do a Deepak Chopra when I talk about the quantum, so don't panic, anyone. On the kind of quantum level, we get this thing called thing called probability, which means that nothing is really set in stone. So I'm not sure, and this is where my problem lies, I'm not sure if we rewound time that those probabilities would play out exactly the same. And that's where I lie on it. It's not that I do think determinism is a thing. I think experiments have shown that it is a thing. I think that we're going to make the decisions that we're going to make. But I think it's on a probabilistic basis that we have no control of, by the way, but a probabilistic basis, so that in such a way that if we did rewind time back to the beginning of time, things might not play out exactly as they have now. That's my kind of rough take on that. What do you think about
that? I'm sorry. No. I need to track what you're saying real quick.
Okay.
So if
go on.
You're saying that you're saying you're a soft determinist because probabilistically. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. So if kind of what the argument that we get very often on this subject is that if we, I'm going to try and, I'm sorry if I repeat myself, I'm going to try and rephrase it in a way that might be better. If we rewound time back to the very beginning and started it over, everything would be the same. My problem with this kind of idea is that we have probability in the way things play out at the atomic level. And I think that, and we can see this is what a lot of quantum theories are based on, but that, I think, would not. I think that to me suggests that there is some doubt in that things would play out in exactly the same way because of these probabilistic circumstances. So it's not like you're rewinding a videotape and just playing it over again. I think when this is described very often, that's how it's kind of the way it's described. You're just rewinding a videotape, you're playing it over again. Everything happens in exactly the same way. And I just don't think that we can say that's the case. Is that explaining it any better?
Yeah. They're saying because there's a probabilistic basis that it might or might not happen, that we can't say for sure that determinism exists, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it has no. I think from the kind of general standpoint of this conversation, my stance and hard determinism, there's very little difference between them. I think it's only when you get down to the kind of nitty gritty of the details of it that kind of my doubt, because it is a doubt, it's just me not being sure. And I think that's where it creeps in. What's your opinion on the thing? What's your kind of stance on it?
Yeah. First, like I was just trying to steal your position, and secondly, like when I'm in the bed at 9 a.m., I'm a hard determinist, but also, I think the reason that we have probability in the first place is because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And I think I would be a determinist because I do think that whatever is bound to happen is due to some sort of consequential action, or like just some occurrence of nature. For instance, someone has a methane leak in their basement, and someone is drunk driving. Now, the person who's drunk driving accidentally rams their car into someone's basement, and the car catches on fire, and because the leak is inflammable, the base is on fire, and therefore the house is on fire. The probability of that happening is very low, but it's based on a sequence. It's based on a sequence of events that were going to make that situation, going to make the house burn down, an inevitable thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for me it's very hard. It's a hard thing to discuss because whatever we're talking about this, whenever we're talking about determinism and probability and things like that, we're doing it from hindsight. So we're always talking about kind of things that have happened. So it's very hard to predict what's going to happen based on what we know. We're not supercomputers, unfortunately. And it'd be great if we were. It'd be great if we had all the probabilistic knowledge in the universe at our fingertips to work out decisions from, but that's unfortunately not the case. And I think, maybe if that was the case, I might look at it a little bit differently. Dan, what's your take on this?
Okay, sorry. Thanks for covering for me while I was having some issues here. You know, it's great because one of our crew members also said they're having some issues, and I was like, oh shoot, America just got attacked. You know, the internet infrastructure is down. Like, you know, my brain just like kind of went into full apocalypse mode because that's how I live. But also, everything's fine and it looks like you got things taken care of from here. You're one of the best people to have on as a guest, Richard, because you know exactly what needs to happen whenever something like that happens. So it was great. Anyway, I had to get that out there. All right, so we're talking about determinism. We're talking about takes on determinism, like yeah, there's, you know, when you do particular chemical reactions and we account for I don't know, if we're doing like pure elemental reactions and we know down to the, you know, the moles, right, how many, how much of it we got. I mean, we're gonna have a frame of reference in which to predict stuff, and that's great. And for some reason there's some people that don't think that applies to humans, that like, oh, we're somehow special and we're outside of the physical world, but we aren't. We are a part of the physical world. Of course we can't predict for everything though. That's the thing. We're limited in our understandings. We build large language models today, right now, which we have a rough idea of what they're going to do, but we don't know exactly what they might say in other kinds of AI. Like, we're already doing that right now for bigger stuff, because it's yeah, every single AI that we talk to is ultimately made up of, you know, transistors and I don't it's electric signals, but it's going to be complex enough to where it's not going to matter regardless, right? Like, we're still not going to be able to have a full appreciation, at least on a human level. Yeah, we use computers to help us predict things and do kinds of equations and stuff like that, but it's never going to be to a point where we're going to have an entire understanding of how the rest of our lives is going to play out. It's just, we don't have that kind of technology, and I don't even think it's even possible to do that. At least, you know, from our current limitations of what computer science tells us, right? We can't make simulations that fine of a detail. So, you know, the point is determinism a thing? Are we all just molecules in motion? Yes, but don't worry about it, because you can still make choices every day, at least have the illusion of choices. That's all we've ever had. So, you know, we can still work with that framework and still also understand that, yeah, we're absolutely just made of physical constructs. So there you go. That's my take.
Rogue Show,
Okay,
what do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah. The conversation might not matter. It might not matter. Like at the end of the day, like we can't, like you probably won't have enough technology to truly understand about a bunch of that stuff. I don't think it's a fun conversation. I think it's a fun conversation to have. I think it's especially among atheists to atheists. Yeah.
You know, Rogue Show, it freaks some spiritual people out, because I've had this conversation before, right? Where they're like, you know, we have to have souls because, you know, and we have to have something outside of ourselves, because otherwise, why does it matter? We're just molecules in motion. That's kind of a phrase that is used by like William Lane Craig and other Christian apologists and stuff. But like, that's the thing. We've always been molecules in motion. Like, the idea of souls came about from beings that are essentially molecules in motion, right? Think about that. There is something profound in that. All great works of literature, every great abstract concept or idea that's ever been created by a human has all been made by molecules in motion. And there's still something to be said about that we can have that ability to what we call be creative and look at the world in a deeper understanding. I don't think it stops us at all from having a deep connection with ourselves or others or the earth or whatever. Like, I think that there's plenty of room for admiration of the world in the universe, and you don't have to limit yourself just because, oh well, it doesn't matter because we're all just made of molecules. Yeah, who cares? You know what else is made of molecules? You're the people who love you the most, and everything that you enjoy in life also, pretty much. So, hey, I say, let's party, let's do it, let's have a good life. I try not to worry about it too much, but it does freak some people out. It is a hard thing to kind of get over when you think about that, when you think about the fact that your life is essentially the product of billions of years of stuff just moving around, just kind of on its own, just kind of doing stuff. So I don't know what to say to that other than cool. Sounds awesome.
I guess my last thought is I have a weird position where if the world's determined, I think it makes life more meaningful, because at least to me, because it's fascinating that stuff is bound to happen pretty much, but you don't know what's going. At the same time, you don't know what's going to have to happen, and that's it. But you can guess. You can have certain predictions. You can guess. But at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen. But whatever happens, it is determined to, and it's fascinating, mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what makes some of our best decisions better, right? Because for example, we can know that smoking causes cancer. We know that because we live in a deterministic world, and human beings are, broadly speaking, made up of the same kind of stuff. So we can see what kind of one kind of stuff interacting with another kind of stuff, and what that happens to our health and stuff, right? It's a great thing. It's a great thing that we're deterministic, because we can have decisions that will benefit us in the long term. It's awesome. So yeah, there's definitely something to celebrate about that worldview that I don't think is often brought up. Certainly not in most religious contexts.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to talk with me, and I'll let you get to some other people.
Thanks, Rogue Show. Appreciate it, and thank you for the topic. It does come up quite a bit. It hasn't come up on here in a little while, but it's worth revisiting. I think more and more people are exploring that idea nowadays. I think even outside of the religious debate, I see a lot more people talking about it in general online. Just because, hey, we have this new freedom of information and people are exploring ideas, and that's really cool. So that's something that kind of comes up, because hey, what if we're just all matter? What do we do with that?
It's great. I think it's a great thing to think about as well. And I try and get away from the kind of the bong kind of thinking that often goes along with these kinds of subjects.
The bong kind of thinking? What?
Yeah, go and smoke in a joint behind the bike sheds kind of stuff.
That's what I thought you said. I just want to make sure. I want to make it clear for the listeners that you're saying the bong kind of thinking. All right.
Yeah. They're going and having a smoke and going, yeah, man, that's cool, and talking about it seriously. And this is something I've thought about, and it's something I've thought about a lot, and it's something this is why I'm not sure about it, because I've kind of looked at all the different arguments and all the different avenues where this goes, and it's just the long and the short of it is it's something I've not made my mind up on. I'm not convinced in either direction to a greater or lesser degree. So I'm still thinking about it, and I think it's very important that it's okay not to have an answer on these things, because you get, especially, and this is the benefit of, as the caller said, of having atheists talk to atheists. Very often you get theists trying to put their point forward, atheists trying to counter their point or put their point forward, and sometimes it gets lost in the mix that it's okay not to have a definitive position on something, and that's absolutely fine. There's lots people think that, and people like William Lane Craig go out and do this a lot, and there's atheists who do it from the other side as well, and they kind of assert that this is the position in philosophy. This is, and there is.
in philosophy.
Yeah.
Like, motherfucker, do you know how big the tent is for fucking philosophy? Okay. You may have one definition out of like 26 in the Oxford, dictionary for philosophy, because like different people have thought about ideas differently. Like, I don't know, that's a huge pet peeve of mine when
Yeah,
people
it
like,
is
oh,
of mine
actually,
as well.
this is how it's defined in philosophy. No, man. Okay, we're not physics. Okay, it's philosophy. It's different. Humanities, get over it. People have different takes. But anyway.
Yeah, there are lots of different opinions on lots of different subjects, and it's okay not to have a definitive answer.
Yeah.
It really, really is, and I think we need to put that out there more. That just because you see your fellow atheist or your fellow skeptic or your fellow religious person have this opinion, you don't have to share their opinion just because they're in your kind of bubble. It's fine to disagree.
Yeah, it's true, because like determinism, for example, is not the same thing as physicalism, right? Or I mean, like there's also these big sort of differences in how we talk about this stuff that I think can drive some people crazy. But like most people aren't trained. I'm not trained formally in philosophy. It's like you got to meet people where they're at, and yeah, you can give them language to help them describe their ideas. But at the end of the day, not everyone's going to be an expert on this stuff either. So yeah, there's got to be some. I don't know. I'd rather talk about it in broad strokes than have a complete, replete, refined definition for everything all the time. At least for my purposes, I don't know, because it's just not useful for most people.